Joining me now, CNN senior military analyst, a retired four-star U.S. naval officer, Admiral James Stavridis. He also served as NATO's Supreme Allied Commander from 2009 to 2013. Great to have you here, Admiral. Thank you for joining this evening. What is your reaction to President Trump calling Zelensky a dictator?
You know, there are so many dictators around the world that President Trump could lash out at. Let's start with Kim Jong-un in Korea. How about Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela? How about Daniel Ortega in Nicaragua? How about Vladimir Putin, as you correctly point out a moment ago? There are plenty of dictators out there. Zelensky is not one of them. He's duly elected. He's operating under his constitution. And by the way, his approval ratings are about 55 to 57%. That's 10 points ahead of Donald Trump here in the United States.
An important point to raise on that, especially, but Trump has sidelined him from negotiations. Frankly, they sidelined Ukraine from negotiations. He has barred NATO membership, said they need to give up territory, and CNN is reporting that they demanded 50% of Ukraine's rare earth minerals. But I note he has asked no concessions of Russia. How could Ukraine possibly accept any of this?
I don't think they can. And let's start with the basics here. Ukraine cannot give up any more territory than they have already lost to Russia. They've already lost about 20% of the country. We've got to kind of allow them to hold that remaining 80%. Number two, we've got to keep aid flowing. And yes, the Europeans can do more here, and I think they will. And third and finally, we've got to give Ukraine security guarantees if we are going to negotiate a conclusion here so that they can be confident that they will not simply be reinvaded by Vladimir Putin if they do agree a ceasefire. So this negotiation, Laura, has a long way to go. And I think the pivotal actors ultimately are going to be the Europeans. The degree to which they step up to substitute for an increasingly, unfortunately, skeptical United States will determine the future of Ukraine.
Well, one, do you think that Europe, in fact, will do that? And two, does Zelensky have the requisite level of leverage to demand anything you've just said?
As to number one, yeah, I think the Europeans will. They just had a summit in Paris. There's some disagreement. As always, the challenge for Europe is to find a way to synchronize their views, to come together. But I think there's a growing consensus in Europe that the United States is not a consistent, reliable security partner. That means they are going to have to begin to step up. In terms of Zelensky, the leverage that he has is, in fact, his position on the battlefield, the fighting spirit of the Ukrainians, and the means that we provide them, we, the United States, but increasingly the Europeans, I think can hold off Putin indefinitely.
Admiral James Stavridis, thank you so much for joining this evening.
My pleasure, Laura.